Welcome to G2 Kappa. Get to know a person already. In today's society, you're in a meeting, you're at a party, you're at a restaurant, you're standing in line. What are you doing? You're looking down at your phone. You're trying to avoid absolutely everybody. And I think we need to bring it back. We need to bring back that conversation, that community. And instead of hiding behind the screen, hiding behind the phone, it's time to get to know a person already. Today, in my very first episode, is a person I know quite a bit already, but I could not think of a better person to have in my first episode on the new format of this show. Ian Fox, welcome. Thanks for being my very first guest.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm,
my friend.
You know what? Mutual, very mutual. So we've known each other, probably going on like 4 years now. We've known each other. But I want to get to know the person beyond what I know. So when I met you, of course, it was through early content creation on TikTok. I know you were a pro wrestling fan. We used to be part of a community together. That's kind of how we came together through that. What was your journey to becoming a content creator on TikTok like? Like, what made you want to become a creator? Who were you watching?
So, there's plenty of creators. I watch anything that really pops up in my FYP. There's very few that I'll go out of my way to follow, but for the most part, I just FYP follow, with the exception of like some that just pop out. But it's very little, mostly sports. The thing that really got me into TikTok, though, was not so much wanting to be a content creator. I just had so many video game clips because I would play video games with my friends, and I would just hold on to those clips for the longest time, and eventually my Xbox just didn't have enough storage. So I thought the best way to save these clips and put some cool music behind it, just upload them to TikTok. It gives me infinite ways to keep them, and I can always go back and then, sometimes change up the song if that's what it takes. But that was essentially my way into TikTok, was just saving some of my favorite clips that I've been playing video games with my friends. And, some people liked it. So that's why I got the following on there that I do. So it was just a lot of fun, and it's really just finding stuff I like to do, and it just kept being fun. So I kept doing it. And then, when it stops being fun, I just kind of lose interest after that.
Fully get that. I also envision now, with the way that you said that before TikTok, before you posted the clips, you would just watch them yourself and just like beatbox your own music. like that was how your enemies are like, oh, I could put this on TikTok. We're up in the music
game. I
wouldn't
say yes or no to the beatbox, but I definitely had a speaker, next to the TV playing some good songs.
I get that. So I remember you having at least one clip that I saw that popped off pretty good. That was like huge. What was your first clip you had that was like, you're like, man, this could be something. This is a big deal.
I mean, that was definitely my first clip that really went off. I've had a few that would get like, it would be mostly like a couple hundred views, and that was cool. And then like one would go to like 1,000 or like 3,000, but nothing too crazy. I did have one that just went absolutely ridiculous. I don't even know the amount of views it's had. It's got like probably over 1 million, which is insane. Like that was nothing I ever set out. Like it was always a goal, but it was never something I was like actively trying to achieve. I was really just like trying to save all these clips. That one felt really cool in particular, but yeah, all of them I just kept doing it and going. I don't even follow the statistics of it anymore. I used to, and I was really happy about it, but I was like, this just stopped being fun. So that's all it was.
I will say, typically in my experience, the people that at least I like collaborating with most when I'm, doing that content creation are the people that don't necessarily they're not trying to be content creators. That's the thing. The people that are just doing it for fun, like when I started making videos, it was because it was something I just wanted to do. I really was hoping other people would enjoy it. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be PewDiePie or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I'm just going to be whatever. And I love that. I love that about you. The one thing that I really enjoyed about your content, even more than anything we did in the wrestling community, and we'll get back with that, or even your gaming stuff, is you used to do like the FYP streams, where you would like just watch stuff and then you would like clip in, post little videos of you like going through. Now, the concept that I enjoyed about that, and you can talk more about that if you like, is didn't you make like where it was like the audience built your FYP or something like that? Like you had like a, you want to elaborate on that?
I started doing it just because it felt cool to kind of build something as a community. Like the thought behind it was, I'm gonna watch FYP anyway, so why not watch it with other people? Like the whole gimmick was like, I'll scroll for you. Like you don't even have to scroll on the phone. Like we'll just go through it together. And I would post like my actual FYP, and it just kept going. Like trying to build and build on that, where like if somebody gifted, I would have to instantly follow whatever video I'm watching right there, or like maybe instantly like it, or if they spam likes, like I have to just keep going and doom liking, which would just, the thought was mess up the FYP of how it is then. So not only would we be building a channel collectively as like a community, but you also affect the content you see by making me interact with what the FYP is showing.
What were you on any socials? Did you ever make content before TikTok or outside of TikTok? Were you a YouTube guy? Did you do
Not
anything?
so much. So I guess it starts when we had a video club when I was in seventh grade. It was just an after school thing. The teacher was like, "Hey, I need a couple extra people to come by for video club, or they're not going to let us do video club." So it was like me and my group in middle school. We just all got together, and we just kind of messed around after school, just making videos.
Is there
It
any
comes
one that sticks out to you, like specifically? Do you remember like a certain video you made?
I mean, I think we filmed a lot of stuff, but never actually put anything together. It was really like we just kept trying to like get away with stuff. Was the whole gimmick. Like anytime the teacher would leave the room, we'd set the desks up in like a square as like a wrestling ring and start to wrestle in it. And the teacher would not let us wrestle in the ring at all. I mean, we're at school, so like I get it, but like that was always our goal, was to make wrestling videos, just because like we're those goofballs in the backyard, like just beating the crap out of each other too.
Who were your inspirations at that age from wrestling? Like who were you into? Who was your
I mean, I at that point I was definitely an anti John Cena guy, just
okay?
because I thought I was smarter than everybody. I was like, they just keep giving John Cena every possible thing. There's no reason that this guy's that good. But looking back on it, like John Cena's the best. There's no question. You put him
Well,
on all four Mount Rushmore faces if you want. I'm fine with that.
I was gonna say you're not biased at all. New England guy.
Definitely from New England. I may or may not be in the area that he grew up from, so a little biased. I won't I won't deny that for sure.
I will
But
say, opposite, flip side, Chicago guy. I was at the WrestleMania. They almost rioted, him and Triple H. I thought that the entire place was going to burn down. I was very frightened for my life.
that's so funny. That's the mania
So
that got me into wrestling.
was
That
there? I
was
was there.
WrestleMania 22.
Yep,
That was the
in
one that was in
Chicago.
Chicago with Punk at the end. Yep. That was the
I
one
am.
that got me absolutely hooked. I liked it before, but that was the one that I was like, I'm going to spend a whole summer rewatching this whole mania a gajillion times.
It was great. It was phenomenal. It was a great show. And
Absolutely.
Allstate Arena, Chicago, it's like 22,000 people. It's like a small arena for a wrestling show. So it's very like intimate. Whereas like I went to 23 the next year, it was like 90,000 people. It's
Yeah.
insane.
And it's mania.
Yeah. But
That's crazy.
yeah, just fun fact, I am on cam like 6 times because I'm cam side of that. So
That's
whenever
wild.
they climb the ladder, I think because 22, that's also Michael's McMahon,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
ladder match. So when he climbs the ladder for the elbow drop, I'm in the back losing my mind. You see me losing it. So fun
That's
fact, if
awesome.
anybody can find that,
Oh, I'll
come to
find
our
it if anybody
Discord
finds
and
it.
post it in there. But yeah, quite a few times. That's kind of cool. That's nice. See, this is what you find out when you connect with people. You find you
That's
have these
crazy.
commonalities. But I do want to dig into this a little more because I don't want to just talk about your inspirations of pro wrestling. Obviously, we're both pro wrestling fans, but you too were a wrestler in school.
Yeah, I wrestled in high
Uh,
school.
so when you got into amateur, or like I guess collegiate wrestling, what made you get into that? Was it because you were a pro wrestling fan? Did you think
Yeah,
like I was?
I was definitely a wrestling fan. I was like, there's no, you can't sign up as a kid to do pro wrestling. So, I kind of, they did a week-long thing in my middle school. So I signed up for that, and I met a lot of really cool people. And they did my middle school versus another of our middle schools. And that's how I really started to get into it. From there, I obviously just signed up as a freshman. There is something to that, though, where I found out after my freshman year, I started getting a rash where my knee pads were. So we were testing from the end of, which would be February, all the way till the beginning of next school semester to figure out what was going on. We just thought the pads were dirty or I had some sort of infection, but actually found out I'm allergic to neoprene. which is that. Well,
Oh,
I'm
the
allergic to
stuff in the
carbo net.
mats, right? Like that's
Yeah,
like a
so I'm
styrofoamish
allergic
type
to
stuff.
wrestling mats, and I
Uh,
wrestled for 4 years. And 3 of those years, I knew I was allergic. So I actually had to wear a full bodysuit, which you weren't allowed to wear the long sleeves. My coach was good enough to just. They actually had him schedule a meeting, and he had to go to the MIAA and talk to several referees and several like higher ups to be like, no, this guy's not trying to cheat. Like he's just allergic to wrestling mats, and he needs to wear some sort of protection for that.
he's just allergic to what he loves, you
That's
know?
what it is.
To
Absolutely.
me though, that makes it so much hardcore. Like that makes it so much more like intense that like even though you were allergic, you weren't gonna let it stop you. You still went at it. What weight class did you wrestle in?
So I wrestled freshman and sophomore year. I was 160, and then junior and senior year I was 170. So stayed around the same weight. But I was all 4 years I was a varsity wrestler. So at no
Okay.
point I wrestled JV, but just to let the other guy try and get a chance at varsity so he could get his letter. But I was never actually a JV wrestler.
So how did you fare? Did you how was your team overall? Did you guys go to state? Did you guys go to
So it's much more individualized, but it is definitely a team sport. Our team was definitely never that great to go too far as collectively. We've had a few guys, especially since I left, be state champions and then on. The last match I ever wrestled was at the All State tournaments. If I had won it, I would go to place in the tournament, undoubtedly, regardless. I had lost in overtime, and that was on my birthday. It was the last match I ever wrestled.
That's so sad. You're like, I'm
Yeah.
allergic to this. It's my birthday.
That's
I
one of the
lost
few
in
that you can
overtime.
actually find on YouTube. Like, there's very few. Like, it's not like I recorded it, but the guy that I wrestled, he had somebody record the match, and now that's on YouTube. But rightfully so. It's a good match, and he gets to place in the All-State tournament.
I've watched at least one of them at some point in our friendship. I know I've seen at least one of these YouTube videos. So did you ever think about getting into pro wrestling like after
Oh
high
yeah,
school or
yeah. No, I actually trained to be a pro wrestler for 3 months.
okay? Where'd you go?
There's a place in Wakefield called the Belltime Club.
Okay.
They were awesome. They were absolutely fantastic, and I just kept doing it. It was a lot of fun, and then it was another thing that just kind of fizzled out where it felt more of a burden than actually just enjoying it, because that's the whole point. If I'm not enjoying something, then there's really no point in me to do it. Very few exceptions to that rule, but I pretty much live by that for sure.
Who was the main trainer? Was it anybody who was or was like a local guy?
Well, there was a few guys that stopped by. I didn't meet too many people. Like I worked some shows that there were people there, but I was too nervous to say hi or anything. But like the main guy that ran it, his name was Bo Douglas. He's the man. He was really really cool. I believe it was Paul Richards. He was a ECW referee, and that was really cool to meet him and see his perspective. There's a lot of guys training there that were just super nice. Everybody was so over the top nice, and but it was definitely it's a place you got to grind your teeth. You definitely pay your dues, and pro wrestling's not easy. So the the ropes definitely bite, stuff like that.
So did you get a chance to do local shows there or
So I didn't wrestle in the matches or anything like that. I did security just because I was paying my dues coming up and all that stuff. I was lucky I did that because the other guy had to do the hot dogs and he didn't get to see any of the match. I get to just sit ringside for free watching a few events, which is really really cool.
what's
I
your
was
local
just about
promotion out there? What's the
the biggest one is Chaotic Wrestling. That
okay.
one's like John Cena came from there, Kofi Kingston, Tommaso Ciampa, Ivar. I like it just keeps going on. But those guys are. It was really cool watching them because I would go to those shows very often.
Is there any other promotions out there that you would go to or is it mostly just chaotic?
Mostly Chaotic. Limitless is in Maine, but that's a little bit further up.
Okay.
Um, there's also Big Time comes around and they have a few big shows, and that's really it though. Chaotic's definitely the big one.
Were you a like I know at that point, we talked when you were younger, you were the anti-Cena guy. Were you a
Yeah.
WWE guy? Were you going to like the WWE shows at all when they'd come there
Oh yeah,
or
for sure. There was I mean I definitely liked TNA a lot at that point, but I wasn't
okay.
too picky. I was just whatever's good content is what I was going to consume. Um I mean even TNA came to Lowell at one point. I didn't get to go to the show, but um any for the most part like WWE, the first big show that I went to was SummerSlam 2006. That was in Boston.
That's
That was
awesome.
what was that? Hulk Hogan versus Randy Orton,
Oh wow.
John Cena versus Edge, Sabu versus Big Show.
That's
back in those
awesome,
days.
dude. That's such a good show.
Yeah, I was in
I was gonna
sixth
say,
grade, I
plus a
think.
SummerSlam. That's huge, man.
Yeah,
SummerSlam
that was a big
is.
one. I was freaking out. Like my mom kept that as a surprise, and then like she probably should have just let me not know and then bring me into the show because I just kept saying I'm going to SummerSlam for like about 48 hours straight, just on repeat. I acknowledge that I was annoying in those moments, but I do not regret any of it. No,
How
I
old
was
were you for
10.
that?
I was about
10.
10 years old,
Yeah.
something like that.
My first big show, I was also 10 years old.
That's wild.
There you go. I am a very old man, so my first big show was a WCW show.
No
I went
shame.
to WCW Nitro. I won the tickets on the radio
That's cool.
because I called in as a 10-year-old. I was like, I'm 10 years old. I love WCW. Give me tickets. And they gave me tickets.
That's yo,
So,
whatever works,
boom.
man. That's awesome. That's so
It
cool.
was a fun time. But no, that's cool because I was actually going to ask you if you remember your first major show you went to.
Oh
The
yeah.
other thing I was curious, and this may not have if you only trained 3 months or whatever, but did you have an opportunity, any of the guys that you had met or anything like that? Did they ever go into the indies, or is there anybody that's popularized or?
Yeah. So there's a few guys around that were really big. There was one guy at the first show that I went to when I was starting to like learn about the school itself. They said, "Oh, we're gonna have a show. Why don't you just come on down?" And one of the guys at the show is Carmelo Hayes.
Oh
You know,
wow.
so it was cool seeing him like super indies. His name was what was it, Christian Casanova. When I was
Hmm.
there for him, and he was doing the show that the school was running was called VCW, and I don't think they run that really anymore. But he was on that one, and I got to see a few of the other guys that I was going to train with, and they were phenomenal. Um, but that was definitely the biggest name that comes to mind when you say that was Carmelo Hayes.
So like, of course, I never trained in wrestling or anything like that, but I do have a cool story. When I was a kid, my local indie, Lunatic Pro Wrestling. Okay, I was like 11, and there was a young teenage dude in a tag team called the Chick Magnets, and it was CM Venom and CM Punk because CM stands for Chick Magnets. That was our
Yep.
tag team.
Yeah, I just learned that recently.
Yeah, so I was very young, and because Punk was from a city near me, he's not from Chicago, he's from another local area. Competitive high school to my high school, by the way.
Oh,
But
interesting.
yeah, at that point, like the only thing that I remembered at that time is there was a wrestler that looked like Sandman. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever because it wasn't Sandman, but I was like, oh, that's dope. But yeah, many years later, of course, he became CM Punk and his brother. There was a bunch of drama. That's the reason the promotion closed and everything.
Oh,
But
jeez.
but I always thought that was cool. And he and
That's
I have
really
the
cool.
same last name, so that's also whatever.
Right.
So we're talking wrestling. You wrestled. Did you play any other sports in school?
I just played football for a year, but it was really never my thing. I feel like
What
never
position
grew up
did you play?
playing. So I originally played defensive tackle, but they kept moving me to nose guard, and
Okay.
I really couldn't tell you the difference except for where you line up. They just had me like right in the middle, just go for it. I do have two claim to fames though for my one football season. I played JV; it was nothing special. I did have a sweet goal line tackle, but the other one was I got some kid into a German suplex, and I suplexed him, but I suplexed him the wrong way, and he gained 2 yards because I suplexed him.
I like how you're like, and that's why they wouldn't let me play anymore. That's why I only did one season.
I only did one. Well, the reason I really only did one because the coach called me up and he was like, "Ian, you're a sophomore now. We're thinking about playing you next year." And I said, "Coach, I'm a junior." And he said, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Coach, you had me my freshman year as the gym teacher. You even went to high school with my grandmother." And he goes, "Okay." He's a good guy, but he definitely wasn't all there at that point. I don't think.
I love that. That's that's the real claim to fame right there. That your gym teacher slash coach went to school with your grandma.
Yeah, he was an old
Um,
dude.
well, the
He's a
reason I
legend.
ask is because you're so passionate about other sports. Like that's one of the things that I hear you talk about the most with our mutual friends is you're always talking about sports.
Yeah.
So, and we'll get into this in a little bit. I do have some sports related questions later on. But what is your go to? Like I know you're into a lot of things, but what is your go to that you watch?
Like just general content.
Just
I mean, I
sport.
definitely
Like if
watch a
you
lot
had
of
one sport you could watch, what would you watch?
football
Football.
every single time, no question about it. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the highs and the lows, and I mean that as far as energy wise too, because obviously a whole football game is a roller coaster for how many points you can score, and oh no, you just need one touchdown, or like if they get the ball back here, they get the chance. But it also is, it's just so calm before it gets so chaotic, and the chaos is just so like it could be anything. It does like it's just kind of like it's live. Anything could happen type of thing. I mean, obviously there's some like horrible things you'll see on top of that too, because there's good and bad, but the good just is so impressive and just like something that just keeps my interest. And I think a lot of it has to do is I'm very passionate about fantasy football as well. So that kind of helps me get the whole scope of everything that's going on in the league, because I can talk football, but there's other sports that I can talk about my team and not necessarily the sport.
So, and of course, New England guy, so you're a Pats fan. Yeah.
Of course.
Tom Brady
Still,
guy,
even
have
right
to
now.
be. I was going to say, but Tom Brady, GOAT forever, I'm assuming.
Unquestionable. I don't care.
I can't really say much. It's not like I can sit here and be like, Jay Cutler forever. Like
Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, the guy.
He's the future. Okay. I will say that. I know very little about sports, but I know that he is the future. Okay. So Pats fan, obviously. Celtics fan?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Unquestionable.
Red Sox?
Yep.
Do you watch a lot of baseball, basketball? What do you?
So I'll watch stuff that's on, but for the most part, like the sports that I talk that are my teams, like I can talk the Bruins and I can talk Red Sox, but I can talk basketball is how I see it. I'm not as good as football, but I can definitely talk beyond the spectrum of just the Celtics. But
what's your like biggest memory of like basketball, just of a Celtics game or a Celtics moment?
I mean, I've been to a few, and that's probably the sport I've been to the most. I'm not sure why. It just kind of always worked out that way. But, I mean, the biggest one has got to be 2008, right? The Celtics win. Kevin Garnett grabs the trophy, and then he says the most infamous line that's known to man. Anything is possible. I want to be too loud.
What song is that from? There's it's Lonely Island, right? They're like, Kevin Garnett, anything is possible. Yeah.
He does say that.
Yeah. I love that. So, was there ever anything that you were going to get into like outside of pro wrestling? Were you ever, as a kid, did you want to be one of those basketball players, football players? Like, did you have visions of that?
I mean, I definitely played basketball in like middle school and younger, but like it never really turned into anything. Of course, you kind of aspire that, just doing like in the small, like elementary school age type of stuff. But it was always wrestling. I even tried to convince my mom when I was a sophomore that I wanted to quit the wrestling team and join the Chaotic Training Center, which was the actual school for chaotic wrestling. She would not let me. She said, "Just you only got 2 more years of high school. Just wrestle." So I was like, all right.
So, and I was told that too, because I was a pro wrestling fan. I actually did wrestle in junior high for a very short period of time. Most people don't know that, but and that was a big thing. The wrestling coach would bring up. He would always say, like, "This isn't pro wrestling. Don't come in here and try to do that pro wrestling crap." And he's like, "But if you do want to get into pro wrestling," he's like, "what you guys don't know is a lot of those dudes were wrestlers." And when you look at like Dolph Ziggler, what is he? Kent State has one of the most winning records in history or something. Then you look at guys like Lesnar, you look at guys like Kurt Angle, stuff like that, like legit wrestlers. So there's a pathway.
Absolutely.
So you've seen previously there was a version of GT Gabo before this for a different community we were in, where I would have a lightning round of questions. I am augmenting that. Which will be slightly different. Essentially, I just have some questions that I think would be interesting. Some of them might be a little weirder than others, but I'm just, I want to throw these out there and see what sticks. But one of these specifically fits a conversation we've been having a lot around sports, which is if you were putting together a cross-sport 5v5 squad to play across any sport, they could be called into action at any time. Okay. It's a Space Jam scenario where aliens are invading and it's you and 4 guys. You have to be one of the 5. Okay. So you got to figure out where you fit. What other 4 people are you picking?
Now, do I
for
pick
that
from
squad?
Their prime? Like, do I get them in any version of themselves or only currently right now?
Well, I would say because you could pick, I would say Michael Jordan because that's my guy. But so I would say any timeline, any whatever.
I mean, just athletic freak wise, I got to go with Lesnar somewhere, right? Like, regardless, Lesnar needs to be
football as well. He played football, right? When he a Viking or something?
Yeah, he was on the practice squad for a minute.
No.
I was going to get a Lesnar jersey. I was looking for those. Couldn't find them.
Okay, so we got you and Lesnar.
Me, Lesnar. Um, I
Pretty
definitely got
even
to put
squad
in.
so far.
I'd probably put LeBron in. I mean, I'm not
Okay.
the biggest LeBron fan. Don't hate him, but can't deny it. He's an absolute freak. Um, I got to put Messi in there. I don't watch any soccer, but I
Lionel
know
Messi.
that
Yeah, yeah.
he's the goat. So why wouldn't I have this as the goat of goats? And yeah, Tom. No, I was gonna go with Tom Brady, but I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna put in Gronk. Give me
Okay.
Rob Gronkowski, just because he's that goofy guy that's just gonna get whatever needs to be done. I think Tom's fantastic, but if we're going through all sports, he's not very mobile. He's not gonna help in basketball. I'm sure he could do something in soccer, maybe a little bit, maybe golf, but he's definitely give me Gronk. It's just
I
another
was gonna
athletic
say
freak.
you're thinking where I think you need to be, which is you're not just gonna pick the dude that was the best at one thing because he may be horrible at absolutely everything else. Because I could see for some reason I envision Gronk being like Jokic or whatever his name is,
Yeah,
like just the goofy dude. Like
he's
somehow
just a
he's gonna
Hulk
just
dude.
land threes from Narnia, like the whole time. You'd be
Doesn't
like,
matter.
why did
Hey,
you never play basketball?
I'll airball it. He can get it from like 3 feet away, and then he's good. We're good.
I
We
get
don't need
that.
much from him.
I dig that squad. I do have two follow-up questions to that though, okay?
Okay.
With that squad that you have, who are you picking to lead as coach for that team?
Oh, LeBron. LeBron every single time.
No, a coach. I
Oh, just
want a
anybody?
coach. Yeah, I want a
Ooh.
coach for that team. Because
I
I
want to say
think
Belichick so bad, but I can't. I'm definitely gonna have to go with give me Coach Pop. Give me Popovich. Greg
okay,
Popovich. He's just he's got too much XP. He'll be able to tell me no matter whatever sport we're doing, he's gonna know what the research we need to do to achieve that.
there you go. Well, and that's what I was going to say. Because not only do you have that unique squad of all these different personalities, all these different skills, then you got to find somebody that can handle all that.
Absolutely.
And then my other question is, so you got your coach, you got your squad. What sport? I think with the team you picked, it kind of leans a little heavy in a direction. But what sport do you think you guys are doing best in?
Mm, I mean, it might be basketball. I feel like LeBron can carry anybody. He got the Cavs to the 2016 championship. Doesn't matter. Just I can lob him up and he can finish the rest. I can look like D Wade. Not his
Well,
skills, but just the part where he looks cool throwing it to LeBron.
well, I was gonna say the way I envision it, you got Gronk, you got Lesnar. They can just truck people. Set,
Oh, for sure. Oh,
they're
football was
just
on my
standing there
mind.
as a wall. Okay,
Yep.
and because basically you and Messi's fast. Messi's getting everywhere, right?
Yep, for sure.
So easily you guys are getting the ball to LeBron. I even see Messi being your rebounder. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
because he's getting to it
He
before
can
anybody
jump
else.
probably higher than the board itself.
So I think basketball was the perfect pick for that because as long as somebody can get it to LeBron, he's getting it in, and
Yeah,
you
we got
definitely
that guy.
got a strong offensive and defensive side of that.
Oh yeah.
So good pick on that. Switching gears completely. Okay, this is kind of an out of the box one, but I'm just interested. Something we didn't talk about in this, and hopefully I can have you back in the future and we can talk about this. But we have a shared love of anime.
Absolutely.
Okay, if you could swap voices with
Ooh.
any anime character, who would it be?
Anybody? I
Any
would
anime
probably
character.
pick um uh, maybe Madara from
Okay.
Naruto. He's a really
Okay.
really good one. I think that's the one that I'm gonna go because that's a voice that I'll know. It doesn't really matter what they're saying. If I hear that voice, I'm gonna know. And I mean the English dub. The
Okay.
actual subtitle one, fantastic. But for me, definitely that one for sure. It's not my
Okay.
favorite voice actor, but definitely one of the most indistinct voices.
And do you feel like it suits your character, your personality?
No, not at all. It's just badass.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, I think you're pretty badass. Um, so we kind of talked about this a little bit, but we didn't talk about this specific. We talked about your first show. We talked about wrestling. What is your earliest memory of pro wrestling?
I mean, oh, you know what it is? It's when John Cena debuted the spinner title on SmackDown when he had
Okay.
JBL. JBL held the title or something like that. Then he's like, "This is really the title," and then, or maybe he had a box or something. either way, there was
It was like
something
in
where
a
JBL,
bag or something. I
yeah, he
remember.
like
Yeah,
opened it and it was like
yeah,
poop or something. That's that's one of my earliest memories for sure.
yeah. Okay, I love it. Um, phenomenal. Here's something absolutely crazy. It's not that crazy. It's just completely different way to talk about. If you could be a museum curator, okay, what would your museum be and what would be in it?
I mean, I like to say anime. That would be just
Okay,
really cool to preserve that and be able to show the things that I think would be the most important generally for anybody to watch. Like
okay,
whether you like different types of like sports or anything like that, like just a collection of different things that at one point in your life I think can give you some sort of motivation or teach you something that can improve where you are regardless. And I'd love to find things that I would love to sit down and just be like, watch these are the ones that made me feel feelings, and you
okay.
can try those out and just go from there.
So, what would you say then? And you don't have to give away a moment because also, if you didn't know, Ian and I bonded over the fact I used to be a YouTube reactor, and I will again one day make that. So, just not to spoil anything that I potentially haven't seen, but what anime would you say would be the number one you would pick that you think would be the most impactful across the most spectrum? So, not just emotional, but maybe most inspiring and most emotional and funny at like everything.
Yeah. Um, the one that's absolutely my favorite is definitely, I mean, you can't go wrong with any of the Ghibli films.
Okay.
The one specifically that I really like is, um, I really love Kiki's Delivery Service.
Okay.
I can't think of the other one. The name just escapes me right
Howl's
now.
Moving Castle,
No.
Spirited Away,
Spirited Away.
Ponyo.
Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of that, but it's
I
Spirited
got you.
Away. Like that's one that my kids absolutely love too, and they always find time to watch it. Like my wife has DVDs player in her car, so when we travel or go on any sort of long road trips, we always put in. The kids always suggest that we put in like Kiki's or Spirited Away. Like that's one of my son's favorites too right now.
You're doing the best work. Okay.
Doing my
When
best.
I have you back, and I will have you back soon, I want to get into more of Ian the man, Ian the father. But I've enjoyed all the stuff we talked about so far.
Same.
So I love that. I think that is a great idea for your museum. Um, Getting a little weirder. What conspiracy theory that you've heard do you actually believe in?
Well, that I actually believe in.
Is there, and if there isn't one you actually believe in, what's the wildest one you've heard in
I
general?
mean, I've definitely heard some pretty wild ones. I actually like I looked up so many different random ones when I was in high school one day, and I just shared them with one of my teachers, and he's just like, "You can't share some of these with me. You're not allowed to talk to me about these." Um, Probably one of the craziest ones that comes to mind. They used to say there was some weird thread that I followed saying that Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson were the same person. Like it was
I
pretty wild.
That makes that Super Bowl moment way weirder. Like,
I don't know
you know,
why. Yeah, absolutely. I
I
don't know
feel
why
that.
that's the one that comes to mind, but they had all these things, and yeah, I don't necessarily believe that, but some people out there might.
Okay, that is one of the crazier ones I've heard. No judgment. What what would your weapon of choice be in the zombie apocalypse?
Um, can I do like an anti-zombie gun where I just turn them back into people, and then I
What
just
would
save the zombie apocalypse?
Okay, if we're gonna do that, okay,
I
and I'll
know I'm
allow it.
cheating.
Okay, I'll allow it. But if you're gonna do that, I want to know what it looks like and what sound it makes.
Oh, it definitely almost looks like the ray gun from Call of Duty,
Okay,
almost. But I want some like I want a dome in there, and I want it to look like the inside of what a Build-A-Bear would, with a bunch of different hearts and everything. And you're
okay,
basically zapping them the hearts, and
okay,
the fuzz also comes out like a little bit,
okay.
and it goes pew,
Perfect. I love it. Great sound effects. All
saving
right.
all the zombies.
And we're going to switch up gears for my final two questions I have for you. And, before we get to the end, thank you so much for being my first guest. You've been one of my very, very close friends for many, many years. I'm glad that we could do this together. I love you, brother. I couldn't think of anybody else to do this first episode with. Just thank
Right.
you. Thank you for doing
Thank you.
this.
Thank you. It's been an honor. Absolutely. And it's
Appreciate it.
just fun talking with you, like always.
And we'll do it again. We have to. I have
Right.
like a
I'm
million
always
more
around when
questions.
you
This
need
kind
me.
of flew by. But so my next question, and this is a little deeper, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, that's easy. It's um it's that no experience also means no bad habits. So if you can learn the right way to do something or find something that somebody can teach you the right way, then you'll always be able to do it the correct way, and you won't know how to cut those corners or get hit those shortcuts that might be a snag in the road down the road. And that's really it. It's just that if you're willing to learn, even if you don't know anything, that's all it takes is to learn. It's just the drive to want to learn it.
That's actually a great piece of advice. Like, who did you get that from? Do you remember, or like where did
Yeah,
that come
that
from?
was. I used to work at Sig Sauer, which is a gun manufacturer,
Yeah,
and the people there were obviously a lot of them are former military. All of them were absolutely fantastic. I met some of the most intense, greatest leaders I've ever met in my entire life. And the supervisor that took me on, that was willing to take me as a risk because he knew I was in a situation that I just needed help, but I was willing to learn whatever he would teach me. So his name was Rob. I couldn't tell you his last name at this point. It's been some years since I've been there,
I get
but he
that.
was absolutely fantastic and by far one of the greatest leaders I've ever met.
Well, shout out to Rob if
Yeah,
he'll
Rob the Rock.
never ever see this,
He won't. I doubt
but
he's a computer guy, but he's the fucking man.
shout out if you know a Rob, let him know. Just appreciate your local Rob. Um, and then if there's one piece, and this is part of that, there's still another question after this. If there's one piece of advice you could give that you think is unique to you, that you've learned in your life, that you could pass on to someone else, what would you give?
It'd probably be more of the same. Like I just kind of keep doing it. Like every interaction, if I can pick up something positive, as far as like motivation or drive, I feel like Goku in that sense, where he just keeps taking other people's abilities and stuff. Where I just keep trying to pass it on, and I just want to improve. Like any conversation I have, I always look at like any argument is just a misunderstanding of what side you might be on. So just try and look at it from somebody else's perspective and understand that they're not actively trying to be a dick to you. Like there's just some sort of miscommunication that if you can understand what's going on and explain it to them, your side too, maybe, then there's no reason for any sort of conflict.
That's actually very close to some one of my favorite quotes. I can't remember like verbatim just because it's off the dome. I haven't planned for this, but it's never attribute to malice what can be attributed to like incompetence or something like that.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
because
It's
it
just
basically it
ignorance.
could be just people, yeah, or ignorance, like something like that. But like basically it could be a miscommunication. It could be you're just taking it the wrong way of what was
Right.
said. So I 100% agree with that. And that's actually something in my day to day real life. I have to take myself out of things and be like, is this me or is this actually the
Right.
way this is going? So that's great. I love that. That's actually something that I feel is impactful to me as well. And then the final question I have, and we talked about this beforehand, is I'm looking for you to recommend a person to me to interview because the big part of this whole thing I'm trying to do, the whole get to know a person, it's a cheesy tagline, it is what it is, but I'm really trying to build this out as a movement of like every person's story is important. So I'm not looking for just content creators. I'm not just looking for, like the guys that are trying to get Mark Cuban or Elon. I want anybody. I want whoever you think would be interesting and interested.
Mm, I mean, I probably have two thoughts, and I'll say community wise, I'd love to see an interview with A plus
Okay.
because he's a guy that's been around for a long time, but He's not really around when I'm around, so I don't know too much about him. Like, I like him and everything I see, he's absolutely fantastic in everything I've seen him do. But as far as like a background, like I don't know too much. But
Okay.
I mean, if we're talking celebrity though, I would love to see you interview Nardwar. That would be
That would be
the
awesome. I
best.
love Nardwar.
It's same. Doot doodaloo doot.
I will probably never get a better suggestion than that. So the first episode, you already ruined it for absolutely everybody
Sorry.
else.
Hey,
But no, Nardwar is absolutely the goat, the best of all time. So I'll work on that. I'll
yeah.
try.
Hey,
I'll
I'll do
try to
my best for
do.
you. I'll be
So
in
A
the.
plus a mutual friend, Zach Levi. He won't care if I say his name. He will be on the show eventually in the future. I have talked to him about making content and doing a few things with me. So very creative person. You guys will be seeing him. I don't know if it'll be here first or in some other thing that we're doing, but definitely I will reach out to him. But again, Ian, thank you so much. Is there anything that you want to shout out or like have people find you on TikTok, people find you wherever? What do you want? What's
Yeah,
up?
I mean, if you're looking for me, I changed names. It's either at Ian That Fox or Ian D Fox because that's my name, and I'm also an anime nerd, which is why Ian D Fox is part of that. So
Okay. One Piece.
One Piece. I mean, come find me. I don't care. Just enjoy what you're doing, and that's all that really matters. I'm not looking for the following. I'm just looking to spread love. If I don't enjoy what I'm doing, then I'm doing it wrong.
Can't think of a better quote to say to end the show than that. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this. Let us know in the comments, what did you enjoy? What do you want to see? What kind of questions do you want me to ask our future guests? And specifically, what do you want me to ask Ian the next time he's on? Because he will be on again in the near future. And thank you guys for watching. I love you so much. We'll be dropping GT Kappa twice a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays. Make sure to check it out. And I will link Ian's current TikTok in the description of this video. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Bye.